Your alternative talk radio contact. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Welcome to another episode of Into the Fray, hovering over you like a black triangle in a deserted field. Visit the mothership at intothefrayradio.com. There you can find all the episodes, the blog posts, ITF gear, and sign up for the free guest newsletter. The weekly show is, of course, always free and available in all podcatchers, but if you'd like to support the show, and why wouldn't you, go to the website and click Become an Insider, which in turn gets you extra content each and every month. And by the way, if you would be so kind as to leave a rating and review in your listening platform of choice, Cosmic Karma shall be yours. Be part of the discussion by joining the interactive ITF Facebook group. Follow on Twitter at ITF_radio and Instagram. If you have an experience that you'd like to share, email Shannon at intothefrayradio.com or call the hotline anytime at 844-866-3366. Thanks so much for listening. Now, if you would be so kind, buckle up your safety belts. Put that tray table in the upright position. Liftoff is upon us.
On this edition of Into the Fray, I have on with me Rob Kristoffersen. No relation to Kristoffersen, right, Rob? I think I saw you tweeting about that, by the way, which is kind of funny. I'm like, yeah, I bet you get that all the time. So annoying. So Rob is a host and creator of the Our Strange Skies podcast. Welcome, good sir.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We've been trying to touch base here, and we're finally making it happen, so I appreciate your time.
Oh, absolutely.
How often do you get that annoying question? Is that why you kind of just went, you know what? I'm going to get that out there in a little tweet. I think that was last week you just did that. Like, no, I'm not related to Kristoffersen.
I used to get it a lot when I was a kid. And then once the millennial generation lost contact with him, they don't know who Kristoffersen is.
True.
It started to go away a little bit. And then now it's starting to come back. So I'm like, I remember searching on Wikipedia one day, and it said, and there was this list of supposed people, famous people who are reptilians, and Kristoffersen was on that list. So I was like, am I related to Kristoffersen? Do I look like a reptilian? No, I'm not.
That's amazing. He does. I mean, what an incredible name. Kristoffersen. I mean, that just rolls right off the tongue, right? You're like, not so much.
Well, you know what his full name is, don't you?
No.
Kristoffersen. I'm not.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I did not know this. Why? What is wrong with his parents?
They hated him. Because it's a Norwegian name. So with my dad, his parents, they gave him the two shortest names possible. So, it wouldn't be such a hassle. It's not easy living with a 13-letter last name. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, it should be easy for people to spell, but somehow people kind of mess things up like that. The English language is failing more heavily every year for written and spoken. So I think that... Of course, I added that too. I think I was just telling you earlier that when I'm editing videos and stuff, all just hell breaks loose, and I go to the it's not pidgin English, it's like pirate English, where it's just every other word is the F word and S word and FU, and just to my computer, So
Yeah.
Or to
absolutely.
myself, because I suck at it, and it's a learning process, but it's very, very frustrating. So yeah.
It is, and the software doesn't have empathy for you at all. It just won't cooperate.
No, it's as brutal as Mother Nature. It wants you to just shrivel up and cry and possibly just expire right there, just from stress and being so angry. So I'm trying to get over that a little bit more and just kind of roll with the punches. But maybe I wouldn't do so well like living in the bush in Alaska, because I can't roll so well with Adobe's punches that it throws at me. So I don't know. You just have to be prepared for everything. I love watching those shows, like Sue Aikens in Life Below Zero. What a badass. Yeah, she's like, I'm on the bottom of the food chain. You just have to freaking deal with it if I walk out into a blizzard. Oh, well, that's how I feel opening Adobe every freaking time. So brave of me, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like when people talk about like Les Stroud should be Chuck Norris. He should actually be the literal Chuck Norris, because the man is like indestructible. He's
incredible.
He's amazing.
I think he was in, maybe it's Norway, somewhere very cold and very snowy, and he actually got himself into some trouble. And what's his motto? If you're wet, you die, or that's
something like that.
Something much sexier the way he says it. I just screwed it up, but basically, don't get wet. And he got wet, and he's in Norway or wherever he is on the side of a freaking snowy mountain. He's like, I'm really kind of screwed and scared here, and you're like, no, Les, no, you can do this, buddy. We need you. Yeah.
You can't fail us now. Come on.
If Les can't do it, nobody can. Like you said, he's like Chuck Norris. It's like just
he is
incarnate.
He is.
Just more than lines in a movie. Although Chuck Norris kicks ass, I don't want him knocking on my door. Love you, Chuck. All right, so don't want to talk shit about Chuck Norris. All right, so your show, Our Strange Skies, you've had a few episodes drop already, and I jotted down a few so that people, if they want to check it out while we're chatting, please do so. You've had classic and old-time UFO sightings episode, the Eagle River incident, which I need to go back and listen to because I'm not actually familiar with that offhand. Maybe I am and don't know it, but the name does not ring a bell. You also have director Brad Abrahams. He was the creator of Love and Saucers documentary about a painter named David Huggins. Now, was David Huggins a guy that claimed to be an abductee, or was he just seeing them all the time?
No, he did. It's kind of confusing because what he describes as abduction-like experiences. But like with the way I describe it on my show, he doesn't totally fit into the abductee label because and most abductees view their experiences negatively. Mm-hmm. But with Dave, he entertains it in a positive light. And what's interesting is like he doesn't come off as like having just experiences. It's like he's having a relationship with these extraterrestrials. So for him, and the bold claim here is that he lost his virginity to an alien. So it's a really fascinating documentary, and the thing is when you watch it, you want to believe him because he's such a down to earth guy that you're just like, and he's so charming, and you're just like, I believe that you interact with aliens all the time.
Now, is this the guy that he painted the fully nude female alien, and she's kind of like, you know, she's like, here's my, breasts or whatever. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to, so that is the guy.
It's like an 8-foot tall painting because supposedly that is life size. They were that tall.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And she, if I remember correctly, she wasn't like one of the super attractive tall whites. It was more like a gray with a wig on kind of a thing, if I'm remembering correctly. Right.
There were like, I think you see like 3 of them. He has a relationship with one named Crescent, and she's like she's shorter. She's maybe like 6 feet tall, but there are depictions of these other
what a shrimp
yeah, right.
Yeah.
These other taller ones that are 8 feet tall, and they basically have the faces of what we would consider like grays, and then they have what looks like wigs on. So yeah. Yeah, that's Dave Huggins.
Wow. That's cool, though. I mean, at least he's painting it in a decent light, and it's been a positive thing for him. And I mean, is he selling his paintings, or are those just for him?
From what Brad said is that he's helped him sell some paintings, but what he does is he goes back and repaints them. The way that he describes it, it's these beings are giving him the images to paint almost. Like, I don't know if they're totally 100% his memories, because most of them aren't painted from his perspective. They're painted from a different perspective, like a third person or something like that.
Oh.
But yeah, he goes back and he repaints them.
Is that through hypnosis that he's getting these visions, or is this just from straight memory?
Straight memory. He's never undergone hypnosis, from what I understand. He kind of had this come to Jesus moment in, I think it's like in 1987, where he just starts remembering all this stuff for whatever reason. And supposedly it's the aliens that are letting him paint for whatever reason. They agreed to let him, create all these paintings and stuff like that. And from what I understand, it's like over 100 paintings so far.
Wow. But he's dead serious. And does he enjoys the interaction enough to where he's like, they're still coming, and I enjoy that they're still coming to me and I'm having these interactions?
They're not as prevalent as they used to be, because the narrative with people that have these kind of experiences is like, once you get past, I would say like 40, 45, these beings start to back off a bit. Like, you've kind of served your purpose, but like, I think Dave's kind of interesting in that he still has interactions. It's just not as frequent.
All right. Well, we'll let everyone listen to your episode to learn more. I just had jotted that down because I was not well read on any of that. So a couple good episodes to check out there, guys. Our Strange Skies. So, Rob, for you, what's your opinion on abduction cases? Just in general. There might be a couple that you find interesting, including Mr. David Huggins here. But in general, what do you think about that phenomena?
It's tough to really say. Like, there's aspects to this that make me think, well, is some up trauma from their life? And Dave, that's not to say that Dave doesn't have trauma in his life. He had his childhood wasn't the greatest, but I think like a lot of kids growing up in the 50s, their childhoods weren't the greatest because I mean, we're post-war. A lot of people, a lot of soldiers coming back from war are dealing with that. So it definitely paints this picture of a home life that isn't that great. But there's also other aspects to it, and where maybe this trauma opens up these people to these experiences. There's always that kind of possibility. Could we be opening ourselves up to these types of experiences just in the interactions that we have and how they affect us mentally? And that's the tough thing. It's a tough phenomena to pin down, because even if there isn't trauma and these people claim to have these experiences, well, why them? Well, we can look into their family and see, well, their families, there's a family history of this. Well, why is there a family history of this? Why does it follow bloodlines and stuff like that? And nowadays, like, the researchers that were looking into this aren't with us anymore. Bud Hopkins passed away a few years ago. John Mack passed away in 2004. So I don't think it's getting the attention that it needs. It definitely needs more attention put towards it. There's a lot of ways that we can just look at this, but I don't think there's just one way that we could say, hey, this is what an abduction is. This is what this type of experience is. Because not only do we have these different experiences, but they interpret them all in different ways. Like Jeremy Corbell just put out Patient 17 out on Netflix and stuff like that. The Patient 17, he views his abductions in a negative light. Mm-hmm. So part of it's how they frame it themselves, but what about the part that is beyond them? Is there a part that's actually beyond them, or is it something inside them? It's really a tough phenomenon to nail down.
With the passing of Roger Lear, that was the doctor that was taking out the implants, right? It wasn't that what patient 17 is focused on him before he passed, but I'm just wondering, are we going to get another Roger Lear? Because that is extremely interesting work, and it just seems strange that, I think it was Chad and Alta Dillard that I brought this up with, because she claims that she has a foreign object in her arm. And she said that she had tried to contact them, and then once, especially Roger had passed, that nobody would get back to her at all. What happened to the other guys that were working under him? I'm assuming he had some sort of a team, albeit maybe a small team, but why isn't there anyone out there doing this work anymore?
I think part of it's putting your credibility on the line to do that. I can't imagine it's easy for any surgeon to want to be, hey, I want to be the guy that removes alien implants or something like that. There's too much ridicule cast upon this, and even after the great New York Times article that appeared where the government was studying UFOs and such, it hasn't pushed the narrative at all, and I don't think it's going to. It's going to be something that's continually ridiculed. So I don't see anybody taking up the mantle of Roger Lear. I don't see a lot of people taking up the mantle of what John Mack was doing. And John Mack, he was a Harvard psychologist. He put his reputation on the line, and you kind of got to be willing to do that. And I don't think we've seen anybody emerge yet to do that.
Did Roger Lear actually have quote unquote understudies that were also doing the surgery, or was he, or maybe they were just more maybe nurses in the room? Do you know if there were other surgeons studying under him?
I don't think so. No,
yeah, that's a bummer.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was the only one.
Yeah, that's really a shame, because I find that aspect of it really very odd and hard to kind of throw away in the whole scheme of things. Wasn't it? Oh my God, Whitley Strieber. I'm like, how can I not remember his name right off the tip of my tongue? That had an implant that was actually reacting to radio frequencies, and it was supposed to be moving.
Yeah.
In response to them trying to get at it. Yeah,
there are some abductees who, when they go and try to remove it, ends up moving on its own, which is so weird.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a guy. He's not a very well known abductee, but his name's Jesse Lang, and he claims that when they removed his implant, he actually got sick. So that's another interesting aspect to all this too.
Yeah, it is. Considering that you're assuming that it wasn't there before, but now that it is and it's gone, you're sick now. I mean, how do you even begin to explain that, right?
Right. And nobody's going to believe you when you try to explain it either.
Yeah, I can't come into work today because, they removed that alien implant. It really made me sick as a dog. I mean, I needed that thing in there, obviously.
But you might be covered because they do have that alien abduction insurance. So
they do?
You might be covered. Yeah, there is actually people selling alien abduction insurance.
Oh my gosh. There's so many jokes. I'm not even gonna go there. It involved diapers and things. I'm just not gonna do it. Yeah. I need xenomorph insurance because I constantly want a xenomorph to come into my house. I want to be best friends, but he probably will impale me with his badass tail. Is there insurance for that?
I don't think so. They're in fiction right now, but anything's possible. Anything is possible because
really bummed out about that.
When we talk about like tinfoil hats started in fiction, and then they became something that we go to and make fun of and put on our heads to keep the aliens from getting into our brains.
Which I'm sure, you know what? Keep it simple, stupid, right? It's like, I bet that tinfoil hat works great for keeping them from reading your brains. It's very simple. And, hey, it's great for baked potatoes. I mean, it's amazing. It is, and I'm waiting for someone to come out with a line of fashionable tinfoil hats because I swear they'll sell out of them in no time. I should cut that out of the show so that you can go ahead and do that and no one is the wiser and beats you to it. I'm just saying that right now, dude. That's amazing.
Right? Oh,
It's
it'd
the
be so
Our
awesome.
Strange Skies line of fashionable tinfoil hats. If only Versace would have gotten a hold of that before,
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen a lot worse stuff on the runway. I'm sure you have too. You're just like, excuse me, what? Someone burned that thing alive. I'm sorry. It's terrible.
Oh yeah, it's a YouTube event every time.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah, totally. No, I need wings to walk around the house in. Totally normal. Mhm.
Yeah. If I need that ego boost for that day, I'm wearing them.
Just garbage bags every day. Oh
Every
my God.
day.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting way off track as per usual. Before we get into your stuff, what for you is kind of a coup de grace case or a couple of cases that you're just like, yeah, I don't really know what else this could be, and I love it.
Well, the one case that really pushed me to start looking into this stuff was the case of Lonnie Zamora. Lonnie Zamora is an unimpeachable cop, and he claims to see a craft land in the desert, sees occupants outside, and sees it take off and move away from them. We have correlated sightings that attest to his sighting, so we know that. But there's also an interesting sighting hours before this in New York, where this farmer is he's looking to increase his farmland. He ends up looking in this one area, and there is this craft that Lonnie Zamora pretty much described. There's occupants.
Oh.
The occupants ask him for fertilizer, and when he turns around and he's going to get the fertilizer, they get back in their ship and fly off. He brings the fertilizer back. He leaves it there, and miraculously the next day it's gone. So for me, that case, what Lonnie Zamora saw, it's either a terrestrial object or it's a non-terrestrial object. There is no other explanation that can fit.
Right.
They've ruled out everything. So that's a home run case for me. Definitely.
I didn't realize it's been a while since I've read that one, the corroborating witness. I didn't realize that. That's really cool.
Yeah, because there was somebody had called into, it was like a local radio station about 15 minutes before Lonnie Zamora saw his sighting and reported an oval-shaped object heading towards Socorro. So we have that. And as the craft is going away from Lonnie Zamora, it allegedly buzzed it was a station wagon of a family before it disappeared. So we have this interesting these correlated sightings. So to me, that is definitely one of the best cases that we have on record.
Now, what about the conspiracy theory about UFOs and how people just like to either explain it away as the government, or everything is misidentification, or it's a conspiracy wrapped in a conspiracy tied in a whatever? I mean, what are your thoughts on those that just kind of explain everything away and they won't actually look at the details of a case?
Well, I think we have to the good ones. The good people investigating this stuff, you've got to rule out the simple stuff first. And I think, in a sense, a lot of good investigations go bad because they don't rule out the easy stuff. And there's definitely that other side to it where it's just debunk, and we're talking about cover-ups here and stuff like that. Like, public perception of this phenomena is important. Clearly important to the government. And you can see that in Hollywood, in the way it's depicted in movies, and that's subtly starting to change. A lot of the UFO community's theories revolve around the extraterrestrial hypothesis. And that's a hypothesis that begins in fiction. It started in the late 1800s. And also, it started in pseudoscience, because you have these early astronomers, looking at Mars, and they're saying, well, there's a civilization on Mars. It's clear because there's one guy that looks through a telescope. I think it's Giovanni Schiaparelli. and he sees like these dark lines on Mars, and he assumes them to be like water canals or something like that. And then people take that theory and they expound upon it to the point where they're talking about there's a civilization on Mars. Those are the ice caps. They're feeding water to the civilization on Mars, and then other people are pointing stuff pointing telescopes at Mars, and they're coming to really odd conclusions. I think my favorite one was that Mars, the life form on Mars, is one giant vegetable, and that Mars's white spot is an eye that it uses to spy on the universe.
Oh,
this was
God,
a theory.
That's creepy.
Yeah, this was a theory back in the late 1890s, and people still cast shade at Mars all the time. Like, people are, it's the constant clickbait of, oh, hey, did you see that? Did you see that rock formation that looks like an alien on Mars?
Oh, like, the ones, the one looks like it's in a dress or something, like casually strolling down the hill. I love that one. Or the lizard. You're like, guys, really?
Yeah, it's like, I think Mars is tired of everybody's crap. Could we just stop?
Besides that, Elon Musk is like, look, we will prove once and for all, those are rocks, guys. No, I think that once we get there, it would be cool if Matt Damon was there planting taters in his own poo, but I mean, maybe that's why the aliens needed the fertilizer, because they're like, we have a guy, he really needs some help, and a little bit of fertilizer will go a long way, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you also have the wild stories like Randy Kramer, who claims that from his childhood bedroom when he was 17, these government officials walked through his wall, took him to a government facility, flew him first to the moon, to a base on the moon, and then they flew him to Mars, where he defended the planet from aliens for over 20 years, and then they transported him back into his childhood bedroom, and he still looked like he was 17. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That is real.
We could all use that little timetable, I think.
Yeah, right?
Live an entire lifetime or two, and then plug back into the 80s. Or 90s when you were a kid, and just the best times of your life. You're like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
I mean,
hell yeah.
One of my favorite books is, speaking of conspiracy theories, would be the old Behold a Pale Horse. I mean, who doesn't love cracking that book open? I like just looking at the damn thing. It just makes me happy. But, I mean, you never can tell with these things, right? I mean, these people come out with these fantastic stories. But sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. You just never know.
Oh, absolutely. And like the thing about conspiracy theories is sometimes they are true. Look at MK Ultra. That was 100% true. So, and of course you have the Montauk Project, which is, interesting for what you can and can't really prove, which is a lot, but it's interesting to think about. Oh, hey, the government's got a secret military installation on Long Island. Yeah, let's. They're talking about mind control and aliens and all that stuff, making sleeper agents. Cool. We're all about it, especially with the way it's presented to us in movies and stuff like that. So it's interesting. It's interesting, but yeah, conspiracy theories, sometimes they are true.
Okay, so this is the last thing, I promise, and then I'm going to grill you for your own personal encounters. Okay, so last thing, because it's fun just to be like, well, this would be fun, or no, hell no, I wouldn't do that. So if you could be in any alien movie scenario, probably except for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is one of my favorites, but those aliens were pretty benign and cool. They're all about contact and let's play some keyboard and everybody kumbaya. Besides that, we're talking like Independence Day, War of the Worlds, Cloverfield, where they are hostile and they just want to stab you or eat you or suck the blood right out of your body. I mean, what do you think for you? You're like, okay, I that'd be a good way to go, basically, is what I'm saying. Because all of those movies, a lot of people died.
They do. And it's so sad. I mourn them every time I watch those movies.
I know, I do too. And you know what? Can I just say right now that the second Independence Day, I'm like, you know what? I don't like that his picture is just on the wall and he's just gone and here's his son. I was like, I didn't like it. They should have just left that one alone. Sorry.
They should have. If I'm going to put myself in any scenario, I'm going to be Jeff Goldblum in Independence Day, and even if it turns out differently, I'm going to be that nerdy guy that's going to at least attempt it. I can't fly that dang thing, that's for sure. I just don't have the skills for that. But hey, you know what? I can hack into whatever alien mainframe that you want. Just cast me in that role, and I can pretend to do it.
I can see you saying it now. I don't know if I'll get this line screwed up. It'd be so badass if I could just pop it out of my brain. But where he's like, fat, there's no fat lady. You're obsessed with the fat lady. There's no fat lady singing, right? With the cigar.
Yeah.
You're obsessed with the fat lady. Did you see they're coming out with a Funko Pop doll of him laying with his shirt open in Jurassic Park on the table?
Oh yeah. We've needed that for years.
Oh,
we've needed
man.
that.
Yeah. Gotta get that. I think it's at Target, right? Target only
Yeah, it's
when
a
it comes
Target
out.
exclusive. Yeah.
Go Target. Love it.
Yeah, right?
We all have to have that. I mean, I'm sorry, but Jurassic Park, the best.
It is. It is the best.
All right. Well, good answer. I like it. I like it very much. I think Cloverfield the first one, was really good. There's a new Cloverfield something on Netflix. I haven't watched that yet.
I haven't either. But
the first one where you have those nasty little four-legged creatures, with the flowers for faces that eat you, that's not fun. I don't think I would like that very much. I'm with you. I think ID4 is the way to go. And even War of the Worlds, they could kind of figure it out. But I don't think I would do the Cloverfield situation. No good.
I like the alien movies where they where they assume that aliens are stupid and like signs that they don't realize that our atmosphere is teeming with water, but they're allergic to it. And War of the Worlds, well, they're all gonna get bird flu. Well,
yeah.
they didn't plan this out ahead of time.
Just sneeze on it. It's not rocket.
Yeah, I'll
somebody.
sneeze on aliens all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, my all-time favorite is the xenomorph and the H.R. Geiger creature that he created for that movie. But I don't think I'd want to go to battle with that because you'd just be done real quick. You'd see it real quick for like 2 seconds if you even saw the thing, and there you go. Okay, you're real. Goodbye.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kind of like when they're in the shaft and it looks like the alien wants to hug them. Yeah. In the first one. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's how I'd be going down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be the one dumb enough to go and try and hug it. So, yeah, that wouldn't be good.
It's funny you bring up that scene. That's the one scene I'm like, I always cringe when I see that scene. It's not scary. It's kind of like, really?
And seriously, when it's in there and it's holding out its arms, it really looks like it's trying to ask for a hug.
You know what? Does. I think you've really hit a nail right on the head with this one, because I think that if Tom Skerritt would have just hugged it, I think it would have been all cool. I think you're right. I think it wanted a hug.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a plausible theory, and
Totally.
if I can reach out to people and at least turn them on to this, I've done a good thing for the world.
Hug your xenomorph today.
Yeah.
Save the world.
Yeah, we need a shirt, people. We need a shirt.
Damn it, Tom. Just hug the Xeno. Dude, it's funny you mention that. It's the only scene in except for when she's in the prison. That whole movie isn't great, but that one scene in Alien, I'm like, ugh, oh no, it's reaching out and doesn't look scary. It's like, meow, meow. Like, no, not scary. That one's, you look cool, but it's not scary. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry to have kept you 35 minutes and I haven't even asked you about your own personal encounters yet. This is how I roll, man. Okay, so since you do a UFO show, I wanted to go ahead and ask you about those encounters first, or encounter, whatever you wanted to cover with that is up to you. But I figured since you do in fact do a UFO show. Now, okay, before we get into that, one sec, I'm sorry. Were you already into this stuff and then you had an experience, or you had an experience and you're like, oh, I have to read everything that I can about this? I mean, what was the situation for you? Was it chicken or the egg first?
It's kind of weird because it's kind of started with, I was a little bit into it, like growing up in my house, and we watched Unsolved Mysteries all the time. Like I remember being like a 6 or 7 year old kid in like the late 80s, and we're watching Unsolved Mysteries, which scarred me for life. Like Robert Stack still haunts my dreams, but it was always kind of there. It hung around. It always interested me because, like, when you talk about spirit phenomena, you can generally point to, hey, this is human, this is not human, this is, you could presume a little bit more than you can with the UFO phenomenon. When you're talking about Bigfoot, that Bigfoot's its thing. That's what it is. Right. I live about hour and a half to 2 hours away from Lake Champlain. Champ's its own thing. Nice. For me, yeah, watching Unsolved Mysteries, it definitely sparked the interest. And then when I was 14 years old, my sister had just moved out of our house. She was, she'd actually moved like right next door, which was weird. But I had got her bedroom, and we had put my bed right by the window. And there was one night, and I think it was like somewhere around February, March, or something like that of that year. I was going to bed, and I just had the urge to look out into the sky, and I could see this. It was an orange light. What it would do, it would turn on, turn off. It would appear in another location, turn on, turn off. And it kept doing this in like a side-to-side motion for about 5 minutes until I just lost interest and went to bed. And I always found that kind of odd because why the heck would I lose interest? It's a UFO. It's right there. You're looking at it, man. Looking at it. Why are you going to bed? It's still doing what it's doing. So, I just went to bed. Didn't think anything of it for about 2 weeks. And there was a rerun one night of Unsolved Mysteries, and it was about the Allagash abductions, and that's an intense abduction case because you got 4 guys in a canoe. They signal a UFO with a flashlight, and that turned out to be a done move because that now it's pursuing them, and of course they're on the shore. The last memory they have is of just being on the shore and looking up at this UFO. So you go a few years later, one of them is in an accident. He ends up having permanent damage to the point where he's having seizures. And then he starts having these dreams involving that camping trip. So he gets all of them involved. They do this hypnotic regression, and then they realize that they were all abducted. And it was the moment when they showed their drawings of the aliens. I remember just feeling very uncomfortable, kind of freaking out. And I'm not saying that I was abducted or anything like that. I don't think I've ever been abducted. But it's just the idea that, hey, sometimes when you look at strange lights in the sky, they want to take you. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I think that thought of just being completely powerless, and the thought that your walls, that doesn't matter because in a lot of these cases they either walk right through them or you just float right through a window pane or whatever the case might be. It's terrifying. It is terrifying.
Absolutely. So I didn't have another experience after that for years. And the only other UFO experience I ever had was about almost 3 years ago now. I was at work, and I have the most mundane job. I do laundry for a large nursing home, and it's the same menial crap all day. So a friend comes down and he grabs me to go outside to go out on a break, and we're out there for maybe a couple minutes. He's smoking a cigarette. I'm just standing there doing nothing. And then I just look up and there's an egg-shaped object in the sky. Doesn't look like it's very high up. I would say it was less than 1,000 feet, but I can't be 100% certain. But it looked like an egg. It was off-white in color. It was moving parallel to where we were standing. So it was moving really slowly. There was no sound. It didn't there was no visual means of propulsion on the thing. And when it came to directly where we were, it turned slowly. It stopped midair, turned slowly, and headed in a different direction as slow as it's been moving. And the oddest thing about that is that when we looked up at it, we kept looking up, but we weren't interested in it at all. Like, this is the moment where you're seeing a visual. This is a visual sighting of a craft. Why don't I want to take a picture of it? Because I got my phone on me, but I seem so disinterested in it that I don't want to take a picture, and I don't know why. And my friend pretty much reacted the same way. He didn't want to take a picture of it, so it just did what it did, and then it flew away from us. And here we are, left years later. Like every now and then, I'll see him. It's like, why didn't we want to take a picture of that thing?
You're like, damn it, Rob. Like in your head, you're like, oh, damn it. Did it, when you said it flew off, did it ever change its speed? Did it like take off at a fast rate of speed compared to what it had been doing?
No, not at all. It just moved as slowly as possible. Like, this thing had to have been moving like less than 5 miles an hour.
Wow.
In the air. Yeah.
Now I know this is really difficult, but I mean, would you say that it was the size of like a VW bug, or was it like the size of, you know what I mean? Like, could you, if you had to guess, I know it's really difficult, but
maybe slightly smaller than a small car.
Okay.
Like, if I'm guesstimating, it couldn't have been more than, I would say 10 feet, maybe 10 feet long. It had no windows on it either. It was just, like, literally, if you took an egg and you blew it up and you just shoved and you threw it in the air, that's what it would look like.
Wow. So like seamless, no lights, no windows, no rivets, nothing on it.
Nothing. Nope.
That's awesome. So you're saying that it wasn't the fact that you guys were in shock. I mean, it wasn't that you actually felt inside just kind of like, oh, look at that. Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. You were mostly disinterested.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. I had no, like, it's hard to explain because like while I'm looking at this thing and I seem disinterested, I can't stop looking at it.
Right.
So why?
So you're kind of thinking that it placed that, I don't know if that would be an emotion or that disinterest upon you guys almost. I mean, is that the best way to say? It sounds so weird to say that out loud, but.
Maybe because this is a common thread over and over again, is where people have these certain sightings, and there are some that, like, if you're in, like, I just talked to John Tenney, and he described having a UFO sighting in a large populated area. Nobody was interested in looking at it except for him and one other person. That to me is one of the most fascinating aspects of this phenomena. Why don't more people want to look at this thing? And like, we now have the advent of phones where people are looking down anyway. So why is it like this? Why do these things keep appearing to us, and yet there are some of them that don't even want us to take interest in it?
What's so cool is also with your first sighting, and you hear this a lot, like you just said, the thread is the same in a lot of these sightings, whether it be cryptid or UFO or whatever it might be, ghosts included. It's something that can be so intense and so strange or different, and maybe it's not so intense, it's just a little off, and you just go to sleep. You're just like, I just need to go, or you go back to work, whatever it might be. But you did mention you had the urge to look out the window during that first sighting, which I find very interesting, which I've heard before as well. Like, for some reason, you were just drawn to look out the window, and it happened to be the perfect time, which I find very strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the idea that no matter where you are, or how small you are to them from their perspective, at least in terms of how high they are up in the sky, they know that you can see them, and they can see you. And there's an aspect to that that's terrifying, because it's like, it's keeping its distance, whatever it is. So you got to wonder why, how and why, and are we ever going to get close enough to get an answer to those questions?
Right. And is that just a happenstance, a byproduct of whatever it might be, or are they doing that to us?
Right.
On both sides. They want you to look out, but then okay. All right, Rob, you've seen what you're going to see. Time to go to sleep. Good night. That's just very strange. And I agree. I've said this about all sorts of encounter stories, that I find the human aspect just as fascinating as what they actually saw and experienced, because some of this stuff I know that mine has stayed with me my whole life, and it took 5 seconds out of my life, but it changed it. It's incredible.
Yeah. And if you think about it, like, think about Kenneth Arnold and his, the UFO sighting that he had that pretty much kicked off this whole thing. He saw it for 3 minutes, and 3 minutes had that big of an impact on the world and in the United States, and how it's ballooned out to as big a thing as it is. Like, I've always found that incredible. And the same with Captain Thomas Mantell, who was allegedly pursuing a UFO in 1948. His plane can't handle the maneuver. Well, he can't, because there's no oxygen in the plane, but he pursues an object straight up, and he ends up losing his life because he most likely lost consciousness in the plane. That took 3 minutes. So it is amazing how these short spans of time are as impactful as they are on human experience and how we choose to frame it.
Okay, so on Into the Fray, I don't really cover conspiracy theories that much. And I mean, what about you? Are you into conspiracy theories at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I actually love good conspiracy theory talk. And because we are all usually searching for what really went down, you should check out the new podcast, Conspiracy Theories. The hosts of Conspiracy Theories guide you through the often very complicated stories behind the world's most controversial events and possible cover-ups. You'll get another look at the official version, and through grounded research, the hosts share what they think is the real truth. Captivating storytelling, woven with in-depth research on controversial events, will shed new light on the possible secrets behind these stories. Join the Conspiracy Theories team every Wednesday for a new episode. You can listen right now on the death of Princess Diana and Area 51. And expect upcoming editions on the Illuminati, chemtrails, and more. Visit Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and search for Conspiracy Theories. Again, that's ConspiracyTheories. Or visit parcast.com/conspiracy to start listening now. That's Parcast, PARCAST.com/conspiracy. And now, back to Rob. Now, if you and your coworker went outside and you saw that again, knowing what you know now, are you of the mind that, okay, this time I'm going to get a picture, I'm going to get a video, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but then at the back of your mind, you're like, well, maybe they won't let me. Like, is that kind of the way that you're thinking about that? Or considering that you both had the same reaction is really cool. Well, it's different, right? That you saw that thing and you both had phones on you.
Yeah. I don't think I would react differently. I just, knowing the limits of the human body and how it can be manipulated, it would make me believe that if these are extraterrestrial, interdimensional, whatever they are, maybe they have the ability to, they'll pick you out, but they're only going to let you do so much.
Yeah.
Because we don't really have a lot of good definitive videos or images today of UFOs that, you know, kind of stand the test of time. Like there aren't a lot, and there's definitely a lot more hoaxed photos than there are good ones. Like Ed Walters down in Gulf Breeze. Those photos, those are some incredible looking photos, if you can believe them. And like when you think about like the X-Files and that poster, I want to believe. And the fact that if you do any kind of investigation, you know that those photos are Billy Meyer's photos, and you know that Billy Meyer hoaxed photos all the time. Oh, hey, I'm in communication with these. They'll allow me to take photos. Well, no.
Oh my God.
Like,
about the Gulf Breeze thing, burn the effing model the second you're done with the pictures and the video, whatever you want to do with it. Didn't he leave it up in his attic or something? Come on, bro.
Well, they called in MUFON to investigate it because basically when he moved out of the house that he was in, the people moved in, claimed they found blueprints and the model, but
then people say it's planted, right? More conspiracy theories. Yeah.
Well,
to discredit him.
I think it was MUFON that actually investigated it, and they said that no, it was after he had all these sightings. But like Ed Walters, he's I would call him almost the patron saint of the abductee, because here's a guy who's resisting in every way that he can. These aliens are trying to abduct him, and that they can't because he's resisting. Here's a guy that in the book, in the first book, there's a photo of him outside. There's a UFO in the background, and he is waving his arm at the UFO, and all he's wearing is a towel.
Oh, damn. I think I have that book behind me somewhere, and I don't remember that one.
It's in there. It's great.
My stepbrother gave me boxes and boxes of UFO books that which I love, of course, but I have no. I hope I can get through them all one of these days, but I think that one's back there somewhere. Interesting. He's only got a towel on, and he's trying to flag down the unidentified craft.
Oh, he's angry. He is pumping that fist to the air, and he's shouting obscenities at these UFOs.
Wow. Yeah, I think that, speaking of videos, I think someone tagged me in one. This was weeks ago now. I'm sure you've seen it, but it's just about as bad as the lamp reflection photo, but this one's a video. It's a field, and it's the quintessential saucer, but it literally has stairs going down to this open field. You might have seen this one. And then the video pans over, and there's this horrible CGI alien strolling, like awkwardly CGI-ish up to back to his craft. And I'm just dying at the comments because they're like, well, man, I mean, next rest stop in the galaxy is like 80 million light years away. Dude had to stop. Why you get, don't bag on him. But it's it's such a bad video. And I'm just thinking, it's not good to share this stuff around, guys. Stop it. But every once in a while, I'll post the lamp up because it's one of my favorite things. I'm like, ID4, it's coming out of the clouds. I'm like, nope. Oh, you can get that at Lowe's. My bad. Weren't you?
Yeah,
wait,
right.
who was it though? Wasn't it you? You're like, wait, is that from Home Depot or Lowe's? I'm like, I think I saw it. That was you. Yeah. That's my favorite one of all time, I think, where people really get fired up, and every couple years it makes a round, and people are like, oh my God, it's incredible. You're like, no, it's not. It's really not. Right. It's a reflection, but that's cool.
Right, and that kind of makes you wonder about the whole thing. Is like, is having a photograph of this, is that important? Maybe not. Maybe something else is important, and we're not picking up on that. Instead, we're trying to prove that it's real, and maybe that's not the idea of it all. Maybe realness. Maybe this is here to test what real is to us.
I like that idea. I do. Yeah. Instead of hunting down the little grays and what their job is, and the tall whites and what their job is. And it sounds, all I know is that if you're in a room with a bunch of grays, you're not going to have a fun time. That's what it sounds like to me. That's all I know.
And that's the varying thing too, because like with Dave Huggins' experience, there's grays. They're all over there. Like every time that he's essentially making love to this alien, there's the mantis being in the corner just watching it.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah, because every painting that you look at where it's happening, there's a mantis being in the corner, like, and Brad Abrahams, he's like, I'm not sure whether he's the chaperone or if he's just a pervert, but
He's the neighbor that broke in. He's like, look, I know you guys are doing stuff in there. Oh my god,
really weird, but I gotta watch.
I haven't seen that painting. I need to watch that documentary.
You do. It's a nice short documentary too. It's only like an hour and 7 minutes, so it's not going to take up a large portion of your day.
Bite size, yeah. The mantis being the voyeurs of the universe, there, the pervs of the universe.
Yeah.
Oh. I think you can't help but chuckle, but I'm like Chad Dillard said that. And this I found fascinating, and it's one of the most poignant things that stuck out in my mind when I was talking to them, because they both say they were taken aboard a ship, right? Well, he walks in a room, and there was a leather chair, like a normal leather chair, sitting in this room, but behind the leather chair, the whole quote-unquote wall of this, what he assumed was a ship, was open, and he could see stars and, whatever, wherever they were. And that I was just like, I've always been stuck on that leather chair. I'm like, what is with the leather chair? It's so very odd. And if that is all in his brain, and that's all in her brain separately, that's just as fascinating. Same as David Huggins. I mean, how would we all come up with this stuff and have it tie so seamlessly and have it keep going on? I mean, if it is indeed just dreams. But then again, folks that have implants, I don't even know where to begin with that kind of stuff. Physical evidence, I don't know even where you disconnect. So you can't just always say, well, yeah, they're a little kooky, or they're having dreams, or it's wishful thinking. You just can't do that. You just can't.
No, and it's tough because we have no idea what this is, and like the way that it manifests. It's like, yeah, you're taking on board a craft, but there's a nice leather chair waiting for you right there. You could sit down and you could watch the universe. Like that is a fascinating. Yeah. That's a fascinating I can't even speak.
That's
aspect.
What I did earlier. Don't worry, I do it all day long. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, and it's like it's alien speak. Yeah, something that Chad said that was interesting was he knew that he shouldn't sit in it though. I think I remember him saying that to me. I'm like, see, but that's a whole nother like weird thread right there. You're like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I was overstuffed and comfy, like something that would be at your grandpa's house. But I was like, he's like, I know I shouldn't sit in it. You're like, what? It's fascinating. It's incredible. Yeah. Okay, before I take you over time, I have to hear about the cryptid sighting, if you would like to.
Oh yeah, this is a fun one because it's so. I don't even know what to make of it to this day. So this was maybe back in 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. I was headed to work. My shift at that time was 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it was probably around between 4 and 4:30. I'd take the same route to work every day. And as I'm turning down this one street, you kind of have a bird's eye view of the entire street all the way down. And I could make out that there was this animal all the way down, and I figured it was kind of a deer or something like that because you always see them anyway. But I'm strolling down the street, like nothing out of the ordinary. And I'm getting closer, and I'm like, oh, no, it's not a deer. It's smaller than a deer. What the heck is it though? So I get to this one yard, and it's got kind of a hill going up to the house. And at the bottom of this short hill, standing with its back to me, is a 3 to 4 foot tall, what looked like bipedal reptile. It had a tail. And the thing is, you could make out a lot of the features because it was standing directly under a street light. which I always found to be so strange. But it had its back to me. I'm about 25 feet away from it when I get there and I stop and I'm looking at it. All of a sudden, it turns around, it looks at me straight in the eye, and then it turns back around. It runs up the lawn, up that short hill, and into the backyard of this one house. And I booked it to work that day.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would imagine so. Okay, so, wow. I wasn't expecting that. I'm going to process that.
I wasn't expecting it either.
You're like, you weren't expecting it, let me tell you. So it turns around for a moment, right? It has it's back to you for the most part, but I know it's under a street light, so it's lit from above. Could you see its face at all?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you could
God.
definitely
All right.
make out its face.
Let's hear it.
You could make out its eyes. And
God.
yeah, I couldn't make out the color of the eyes because, like every streetlight here is orange. But you could definitely make out the eyes. It kind of had like a flat face almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I only saw the face for maybe a couple seconds, but I remember that it was really flat. And I don't remember a lot of the features, but yeah, it just looked really flat. And then it just booked it right up into that backyard.
Was it scaled? So you said it was a reptile, so you saw scales on it?
Oh yeah, it was completely hairless, and I'm trying to think of any animal that this could be that we have up in the area, and nothing was coming to mind because there was no hair on this thing whatsoever. And I live in an area where a life form like that would not survive because it gets so bitterly cold. My hometown, which is about 26 miles away from where I am right now, it competes with Minnesota for the coldest days in February and January. There's no way that a creature like that, a reptile, if it is cold-blooded, there's no way that something like that could survive up here. Yeah, I did see it in the summer, but why was it? Why did I see this thing to begin with? What the hell?
So what you're saying is you saw the yet undiscovered New York iguana, which it just freezes solid in the winter and then thaws out. I mean, is this really simple, Rob? Come on. No, it's.
I was going to say, an iguana. This is the largest iguana I've ever seen.
That's a big iguana.
And I didn't know they could walk bipedally.
Oh, this one can. It's just yet undiscovered. We're gonna name it after you. All right?
Oh, awesome! I've always wanted something to be named after me.
The iguana Kristoffersen. That was horrible. I don't know, something along those lines.
That's what I'm going to call it from now on.
That was the worst name. Just. No one's going to laugh at that. It's not even close to being funny. They're like, God, Shannon, just be quiet. Well, what color was this thing?
It looked like a green color, a dull green color.
Yeah, hard in that light, though, right? With the yellow
yeah, it was
hue
hard, but
and the darkness.
But when it moved, for the brief second, then I saw that it moved out of that light and that you could kind of get a fix on it. It looked like a dull green color. We have... a color up here we call it Adirondack green, and it kind of looks similar to that color.
Interesting. Okay, so how long was the tail?
It wasn't incredibly long, maybe 2 to 3 feet.
Because, all right, this sounds so stupid again, but I always use movies as references because a lot of people see movies and TV shows. So, the Slee Stacks from Land of the Lost. And I didn't watch the original that much. I enjoy Will Ferrell, so I'm talking about that movie. They were bipedal and they had tails, but the tail came down just enough to basically touch the ground and then curl up just a little bit, kind of like a counterbalance, if you will, I suppose. I mean, how much in proportion to the body would this tail have been? If it was 3 to 4 feet tall, right? And then you say the tail was about half of that?
Yeah, probably about. Yeah, I would say about half of that, which was is so odd.
It is, but I love this. This is incredible. I was not I was not expecting this.
It's a creature that does not make sense.
No, not at all. Rob, do you sleep well? Buddy, do you need to get exercise? I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, this is awesome. I mean, people see stuff like this. This is, somebody called in the Monsters Among Us podcast at one point about a huge, like, cricket mantis being that she saw under a streetlight. And that was one that you're just like, how do you even, you can't classify that. It doesn't go into a box. And I love those stories. Okay, so going back to the face. It had a flat face, but I mean, what was its mouth like? Was it open? Was it closed? I mean, did you see a tongue of any sort?
No, I honestly can't remember ever. I can't remember ever really making out like the main features, like the nose or the mouth. It was just flat. That was all I could really remember. And
when it walked, or did you see it walked or it ran away?
It ran. Like, okay. It ran as fast as it could up that little hill. Okay. And then just booked it in the backyard.
Now, this is another funny image, but it'll help to kind of get to my point. Did it run like a person would run with knees bent, or did it run like... Have you ever seen the iguanas that when they haul ass, they actually will do it like they're doing a little wheelie, and they're running kind of funny? Which one would it have run more like?
No, it seemed more human-like.
Oh my goodness. It
definitely seemed more human-like, yeah.
What is that?
Right?
I love this. I love this story. I'm trying to think of more questions, but I mean, you've covered all the little points here. I mean, what's your best guess on what in the hell? And have you come across anything similar to this? I'm sure that you're just like me. You read the books, you listen to the podcasts. I haven't heard anything like this.
No, I mean, even with the reptilian beings they talk about people seeing, it does not match any single one of those. Every single reptilian being people talk about, it's like 6 feet tall or taller. Right. So I'm at a loss just as much as anybody is. I mean, you talk about things like the Dover demon. Mm-hmm. That's a once in a lifetime sighting. It kind of looks like a gray, but it's not a gray at all.
Right.
There were some people that were postulating that it was an aquatic type of creature, which would be interesting. It's one of those one-off creatures that's never been seen before or since.
I mean, and what was it doing? Why was it there? Assuming
I have
that it
no
eats
idea.
Regular animals, or
It didn't look like it was eating anything. It was just standing there with its back to me, and then it turns around, sees me, just runs up that hill.
That it would be a very messed up science project of the house that it ran back to and let itself in the back door, and it's like, I'm sorry, Mom, somebody saw me.
Well, the interesting thing was about that house. Nobody lived in that house that I knew of until September of this year. September or October. Somebody lives there now, but for about 5 years, as I'm making this walk to work every day, nobody lived there. Somebody maintained it, though. You could tell that somebody maintained it because every winter somebody would put it was like a styrofoam insulation in the windows. So, but I up until October, I never saw anybody in or out of that house. Never saw a car in the driveway.
That's a little strange, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Considering that's where you saw the thing. And you just mentioned that I don't know why I had assumed that you were driving, but you were walking when you saw this.
Right. I actually don't have a driver's license. I don't drive.
That is that's a lot worse, because then there was nothing around you to protect you. So sorry. I maybe I wasn't listening properly. I apologize. That's a lot worse. Mm-hmm. That you were just out in the open with this thing.
And I was fortunate because I had headphones on. I didn't hear it. So all I did was see it.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I don't know if did it ever open its mouth to where you're like, oh, it just tried to screech at me or whatever the hell kind of sound it might have made. I mean, you said It never opened its mouth, right? You never saw teeth or anything. Thank God, right?
All right. I would have been freaked out, but like, I don't know, maybe it was as freaked out to see me as I was to see it? I have no idea.
They're like, oh, it's that Rob Kristoffersen. Get out.
He's got a reputation. He's going to talk about us.
That's the one person you were not supposed to show yourself to. I don't even know how to begin with this one, and I love that. I'm usually like, well, there's this case, and that's cool because of this, and that's it ties in. I got no tie-ins, and I love that. That's one of the reasons that I love some of the missing 411 or some of the weird, just random unclassified stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm
The
sure that
one-offs.
you've tried to. Well, yeah, that's a big one-hit wonder right there. I'm sure you've tried to do cursory searches or maybe very in-depth searches. You've never come across even an old written report where someone's like, "Well, saw a friggin' iguana walking on its hind legs today and kind of sucked." Nothing like
Nope.
that.
No. The only thing in my area that we've ever had is a Bigfoot sighting in the 70s, and it was made by two cops that were just driving down the road, and a Bigfoot just walked right out in front of them. That is the only odd thing that has really ever happened up in this area. But for a span of about 5 years, and in that area where I saw the UFO, the actual object, you could see objects almost regularly every night, and it would be a single white or red light, and it would move at just about the same speed as the object that I saw. And this was for years. So where I live is really kind of weird, and it's tucked away, and not a lot of people know about it. Like, there's only like 4,500 people that live here, so it's a nice small town, but it's a very weird town.
Man, I gotta come visit your neck of the woods, huh? Do you guys have and I hate to always just use the same questions, but I always try to connect when I can because it just adds to some of the credibility of other reports that mention such things. But is there granite or limestone? You know, they say that those kind of places attract certain phenomena.
There might be. I'm not exactly sure, but I won't rule it out. I haven't really investigated it much, but I'm sure there's plenty of it up here.
I'm sure you wouldn't want to see that thing again whilst walking in the dark to work, right?
I don't want to see it ever again, ever,
Even on the
ever.
brightest day in a car or in a jet flying over it, and I just get a glimpse. No, yeah, I would. Yeah, that's on the no list for me.
For me, we always have that saying, "Seeing is believing." Okay. Seeing may be believing, but seeing is never understanding. I'm never going to understand what that is. I'm never going to understand why, like, all these things happened. Like, I'm at that point where, do I believe that these things happen to me for a reason, or are they random incidents? Because I've had so many different things happen to me over the years. It's just, why me? Why does it keep coming back to me? And like, I don't need the paranormal ego boost. They can stop.
You're like, you got me. I'm good. I don't need to see anything else.
No, I'm fine.
Do you think they're tied in at all, though?
Maybe. I can't rule that out. I'm not. I won't rule it out, but maybe I just don't see the connective tissue. I don't know.
I think that's the three words that I try to use the most. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's great to talk about and to speculate, but you just don't know. I'm sure that part of you is like, well, either get a shotgun with defender rounds or a samurai sword in case that thing at the house that happened to not have any tenants for years, very strangely. Interesting side note, by the way, decides to come and visit you closer, which is not good. How far is that house from your house? Did you already say that?
It's maybe about 10 minutes away.
Okay. You're like, not far enough.
I need distance, damn it.
Yeah, you're like, it's too close. Very interesting. I love those stories that you just can't put into a box. You know, there's UFOs and then there's these things, and I love it. Those are my favorite stories. I appreciate you sharing that, Rob.
Yeah, no problem.
I would just like someone to be like, you know what? I came across a report years ago in some weird magazine from the 70s, and it describes that very thing. If you have that, let me know. I would like to pass that on to Rob. Your initial UFO encounter was an orangish light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the ones that are seen quite often are more white or red.
I think the orange ones are still there. White is definitely prevalent. I'm not sure if this is a UFO sighting or what, but I was the closest place that you can actually buy underwear that you trust in this area is about an hour and a half away. So there was one night. This was in last November. Driving home with my wife, and we're leaving my hometown. I'm from a town called Saranac Lake, New York, which we're primarily known for winter carnival because we build an ice palace and then we just celebrate the cold because we're idiots and we don't have anything better to do. But we're heading back to where I live now, and we get to I could see these lights through the trees. They were really bright white lights, and we get to this one area where it's kind of like it's a narrow strip of road, and you've got water on both sides, and directly to my right I see these 3 really bright white lights, and they're in a triangle formation, and I saw them for maybe a couple seconds, 3 to 4 seconds, and in that time each one of them strobed in succession, which I don't know what that was. I don't know if that's some like military operation or what, but it was just, the lights were incredibly bright.
And then it was just completely dark after that? They just blinked out, or?
I didn't see them after that point. I don't know if they moved or what. I just lost sight of them. But I kind of wish we'd just pulled over the car and taken a look.
Isn't it interesting, though, as far as the different colors of these things, like, does that mean something? You know, if it's orange or red or white, or is that from what galaxy they came from or what kind of species they are? Or maybe it doesn't mean anything. I don't know.
You wonder if like like we have like EMS has their own light color, you know, fire department has their own light color. Do different planets have their own light colors? Like, oh, when we're leaving the universe, we got to be able to identify ourselves. Better have the right lights on that thing.
Back off, baby. It's white.
Yeah.
It's all white. Get away from me. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of it, but it's fascinating to talk about. That's for sure. So that was just last November. Are you you've had a number of sightings, so are you kind of like waiting for the next thing, or are you just kind of like whatever?
If I don't see anything for the rest of my life, I'll be happy because it started when I was 6. Like, when I was 6, it wasn't a UFO sighting, but what it was, that's another. Okay, all right, I got to tell you the story now because it's.
Please do.
It's so weird. So I'm 6 or 7 years old. We live on the top floor of this apartment building. It's Christmas Eve. It's probably around 10 o'clock at night. I get up out of my bed. I have to go to the bathroom. And as I'm exiting my room, I walk by the stairs that lead down to our front door. And this is an old apartment building. This was in the 80s. So it had been around for close to maybe 100 years, and the front door didn't close very tight. So every now and then you would see my neighbor would come over that lived down the floor below. They would come over and they'd close the door. And I'm walking by, and you can see the light down to the landing below, and you could see the door closing really slowly, but I couldn't see a shadow underneath it. I didn't think anything of it, so I just assumed it was a neighbor closing the door. I go to the bathroom. I go back to bed. 5 minutes after I'm in bed, I'm not asleep. I know I'm not asleep. There's this short shadow that walks into my room. It was dark. It was a dark thing. I didn't get freaked out by it or anything, but if I had to describe what it looked like, it looked like a 2.5 foot tall walking lawn gnome, because it had a pointed head, whatever that was. Like, I couldn't make out full details, but it had a pointed head. It just walked into my room, and I fell asleep, and I don't remember anything beyond that.
How many seconds do you think you actually looked at it before you fell asleep?
Okay, here's the creepy part. I probably watched it for 2 to 3 seconds as it walked in front of my bed, and I assume it walked to the other side, but I don't know. I don't remember anything.
It walked to the foot of your bed?
It walked to the foot of my bed, and then I lost sight of it.
Yeah, you lost sight of it, and oh my goodness. So you saw it for like 3 seconds when it's off, like, to your left or to the right? Which way was it walking?
Yeah, I saw it. It was basically walking from right to left through my bedroom door. Well,
right.
The door was open, but it was through the door, and it just walked in front of my bed. I don't know where it went after that. All I remember is just going to sleep.
That's probably another thing you're like, yeah, I don't really need that in my gray matter.
Well, the thing is like, being a kid, I wasn't scared of it, whatever the heck it was. I don't think it was anything negative or anything like that.
Right.
I don't think I've ever had an encounter with anything completely negative. And especially being a kid, I probably thought that was like, hey, that's one of Santa's helpers or something like that coming to see me.
Christmas Eve, man.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I think I've said this before. If you see something like that as an adult, you're just screwed. Like, you're done. Like, you'll never sleep again. You probably will need a lot of therapy. And God knows what else. And that might be the most healthy thing for you, because you'll probably just, drink yourself into a stupor just to go to sleep every night. 2 to 3 seconds. Because my sighting was 5 seconds. So, if you're pushing the limits and you're like 3 to 3.5 or 4 seconds, that's a good little time to see something. So, do you remember, like, was there like a hallway light on? Like, was it casting a shadow, or you just saw this dark thing? It was darker than the dark, like I described mine.
No, it wasn't darker than the dark. It was just it was casting a shadow. I couldn't make out any of the details of it, but yeah, it was definitely casting a shadow.
Oh my goodness, me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, what? Why? What is this?
Did you have lawn gnomes? I mean, did you check the carpet for dirt the next morning? Because one of them just came to life at night.
No, I honestly don't think I would have, because again, just being in that mindset of a child, it's Christmas Eve. I don't care. I care about presents in the morning, but we never had a lawn gnome because there was no place to put it outside because we didn't have a yard.
Right. Yeah, because you're right. At 6 or 7, you're just not thinking like that. So, thank goodness, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank God I don't think like I do now. Back then, oh my God!
So I'm saying, if I saw that, no, I guess I'll never sleep again. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's basically what would happen. When you're a kid, you can deal with things incredibly. It really is pretty remarkable what you can deal with when you're younger.
Yeah.
Now we're getting old and crusty, and everything would just be like, I cannot even know. Of course, I will say, considering the fact what you saw walking to work that morning was pretty recent. So I don't even know where to put that, and that's why I love it so much. So also the little gnome thing, though, don't know what the hell. So I'm glad that you threw that in there, because that's also like, well, it's not really a shadow person, is it? Because that's not really the typical shadow person encounter. So
no, it wasn't. And like, I don't even think, like, shadow person was in anybody's vocabulary in like 1980. Mm-mm. I want to say this was probably like 1988, something like that.
Do you remember the movie Cat's Eye?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the little gnome that would come up and steal the breath?
Yeah.
Or was it? Yeah. Wait, was it the gnome or the cat? Wait, shit. Now I forget. Something was stealing the breath at night, or was it the cat that would defend against the gnome that came up to the kids and was stealing the breath? I forget.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, I need to watch that again. That was a good one. Yeah. Although now when you watch it, you're probably like, "Oh my god, that scared me." Like, really?
Oh my god, I'm shell shocked.
Now we have to go watch Cat's Eye, and we're like, "Oh god!" Like Critters, the movie Critters just terrified me as a kid, and I've talked about. I don't need to revisit that. Everyone's like, "Shut up about Critters." We know about your damn Critters movie and being terrified. But if I watch it now, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, really? I was scared of that."
Well, when I was a kid, what I had this monster truck toy that was called the Animal, and the reason that it was called the Animal is because it had these plastic claws that would come out of the tires. I was deathly afraid of it. My mother would put it in front of my door if she didn't want me to leave my room.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh like that, but that's pretty funny.
It is funny.
It worked,
I still
right?
laugh about it. Yeah. It worked. I wasn't going anywhere, and like we put that thing in the closet. I wasn't going in that closet for nothing.
I seem to remember a toy like that. I used to have like the whole the Thundercats set with the green tiger and the whole tires with the claws coming out. I think I remember something like that. I'm gonna have to look that up because, boy, don't you wish you would have some of those toys that you used to play with or that used to terrify you when you were a kid. I mean, those would be incredible collectibles now.
Oh, if I still had the Lego sets that I did when I was a kid, oh my God. Like, cause I started collecting Legos in the early 80s, mid 80s, somewhere around there. And, the toy that I made me feel like a badass when I was a child, I got that plastic proton pack when I was a kid, and I was oh man, I was so cool.
It had the catcher that you slid out, and the whole thing it popped open, and with the yellow and the black lines on it. I had the same exact one. That thing was amazing.
It was, and I remember for like a year and a half straight, I just never took that thing off. I was busting ghosts left and right. It didn't even
matter if you didn't have the whole jumper, like garbage man looking suit on. You just were kicking ass anyway. You just put the proton pack on. You're like, pew, pew. I mean, I don't know what noise I made, but probably not pew, pew, pew. They don't make that sound. Don't cross the streams, right?
Right.
I just made it like worse than a cap gun. Pew, pew.
That would have been a totally different movie.
Oh my gosh. I apologize. I'm extra goofy. I just didn't sleep good last night. And when I don't get sleep, I am like I think I'm certifiably I'm slightly insane on a good day, but when I don't sleep good, I apologize. I told you I'd keep you for an hour. We're an hour and a half later. I apologize.
It's no big deal.
My gosh.
It's actually a big deal for you because you're going to have to edit this thing.
Well, see, but I said that because sometimes some guests, as you know or will find out very soon, some have to be edited a little more than others. I'm not bagging on nobody. It's just how it is. Yeah. This one I don't really have to, except for inserting the ad in the proper place. Because I didn't say any F words. We're good. Sometimes I have to edit myself more than the guest, which is true. That is 100% true. So it's not like, oh, those guests are horrible. No, we're good. This whole thing will air. I'm just, oh my gosh. Sorry. When I'm tired, I'm a nutcase.
No, that's all right, because I mean that just makes for more memorable moments to remember.
It does. At least you didn't fall asleep and start snoring. Although that does make really good radio.
I'm sure.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing all that. I'm glad that you threw in the gnome, whatever the hell that was, story, because I know that you said you had other stuff, but I was like, well, let's try to cover what we can in the hour, because I'm going to try to stick to the hour format. So if people start to email me and go, why are you cutting the guests off? Well, guys, I'm going to try to stick to an hour-long format from now on, so just throw that out there. I didn't do that last time, and people were like, well, you mentioned other stories from James. Where are they? I'm like, they're coming, but it has to be on another episode. So, yeah.
Right, and and I mean, I have stories that go on for days, but
part two.
This is the teaser here.
I love it.
Yeah,
maybe I'll be less of a goof next time, and I won't post something stupid like, what if, Rob, you were in Independence Day and flying the ship without the cigar and just in a towel, like Ed Walters while he's waving at the UFO, and I'm just like posing the most ridiculous random questions. I apologize.
This is the craziest dream I've ever heard of.
Right? Hey, as long as you don't see that reptile or the freaking gnome again, it should be okay.
I'm all for it. I'm definitely all for it.
Seriously, guys, if you have heard of anything like, especially that reptile thing, please get in contact with one of us. And, of course, before we go, thanks again for sharing your stories, Rob. We do need a part 2, though. If you have more stories, I would love to do a part 2. Please tell everyone where they can find you and your podcast.
Well, you can find Our Strange Skies on every single pretty much podcasting app, platform, wherever. It's there. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for Our Strange Skies. We have a Facebook group. It's called In Gray We Trust, a group for those that look up into Our Strange Skies. It's a fun group. We post UFO stuff over there all the time. My personal Twitter account is @YourUFOGuy, spelled YER UFO guy.
Awesome. I will make sure to link all of that. What is the Don't Look the UFO in the background? I always wanted to ask you that. I just didn't know if that was a tie-in or maybe you're doing like a spin-off show. In the 0.5 episode, it's an episode kind of just running down the basics for people that may not know about it, about the UFO phenomena. I basically alluded to the fact that when you experience UFOs more often than not, you only experience them with 1 out of 5 senses, and I'm kind of rolling through them, and then I get to like taste. That's kind of a weird one to talk about. So I just there's a short PSA. Don't lick the UFO because you have no idea where that thing's been. You just don't. Literally.
So then after I posted that, I got so much blowback about that. I got people tweeting me like, I'm going to lick the UFO anyway. You're not the boss of me, Rob, and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm just looking out for you because I know what happened to like...
Look at the guys at Rendlesham. They just touched it. And they didn't lick it. They just touched it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, do you want health problems for the rest of your life? Like, okay, fine. Just, I'm just saying. Don't. I told you so. I told you not to do it.
You just see like the Far Side cartoon where it's the frog, and doesn't he like? I think it is. Isn't that a UFO cartoon where he's like trying to get a bug that's on a UFO and his tongue is stuck to it, and then it's taken off, but his tongue won't come off. So don't lick the UFO.
Don't do it. You will regret it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And don't listen to me. Don't bring me your I'm gonna do it anyway. You're not the boss of me, Rob. I do what I want. Don't give it to me. Don't give it to me. I don't want it.
Oh, you're gonna get it. I get that kind of email all the time. A lot of it doesn't make any sense. You're like,
no,
I can't understand your email or your tweet or your message. And every once in a while, you're gonna post it so that other people can laugh with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the language of trolls, it's broken English. It's an English that makes no sense. Like the language of Bigfoot makes more sense. There's this great book by a guy named Dave Gibson. I think it's called Sasquatch: A Primer, and it's basically he chronicled his time at this cabin for about a year because he was building a place nearby. So he was renting this cabin from a friend or something, and the area that he was staying in was supposedly like this walkthrough area for like a bunch of Bigfoot. So like they would leave handprints on his car. They would you'd find tracks all over the place. His animals would, just like bark at the woods randomly and stuff like that. But eventually what would happen, they had this stump, and what they had decided was to leave something on the stump. And what would happen is the Bigfoot would take it and leave something else in return. And at one point they left something, and when they came out the next day, what they found was these tree branches in the shape of a letter that Dave believes is a Mandarin word, and he believes it's a Mandarin word for something like hairy man, because it looked a lot like the Mandarin word for it. So see, the Bigfoots are speaking Mandarin. I don't know, you trolls are speaking.
I think that this ass would understand it better than people that are supposed to kind of emote and relate what they're trying to say. When you're like, are you having I'm not making fun here. A little bit I am. Yeah. Are you having a stroke while you're typing? Because there's no commas. It doesn't make any sense. You can't spell for shit. And you're just like, I love you. I love you. And it's, you laugh out loud and then you go, I have to share this. I just have to. It's too funny. Dave Gibson was on the show. I think it was, I don't know the number. I never know the number. You know this, but I think it was called, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't even say this. It was Eaters of the Trees. If I can't even know the name of my own episodes, that's bad. I don't know the number. I get away with that, but I think it was, yeah. Anyway, I saw he and Sam were kind of going back and forth on that thread, weren't they? About the Chinese thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what to make of that, but I really, really agree with you. I'm like, if they can read and like understand Chinese, isn't that one of the most difficult languages to learn? Not to mention it's one of the earliest languages that we have. Oh, well, that just cancels out what I said because it makes it a little more interesting, doesn't it?
Right?
Oh, shoot. Really? Is that really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. That's almost creepier then. I don't know what to say now because I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that. Because I know that Dave and Sam were kind of going back and forth about, Sam's like, really? Chinese? Come on, really? But did Dave bring up that point that was like the first language about ever?
No, but like prototype Mandarin dates back a long, long time. Like I think when people talk about like the early formation of human civilization, they look to the Fertile Crescent. And like that's your foundation there, and they look to like Sumerian as the foundation there, and Babylonian. But I think over in Asia they definitely had stuff going on. I think if not around the same time, but a little before that. So yeah,
I don't know what to make of that then.
I don't either. And that was one of the. I mean, it's one of the most interesting things about that book. And like, I have my issues with Dave. Don't get me wrong, but it's fascinating to think about that. These creatures, they're clearly intelligent, whatever they are. Like I have a tendency to believe that they've been around here longer than we have, because whatever they are made for this terrain. They can move over rough, rugged terrain relatively quickly, wherein we can't. So they're suitable for this area. And like, especially when you get into like, Bigfoot sightings worldwide and stuff like that, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's not something that's contained to just the United States or wherever. But like, I think one of the most interesting facts that I've ever come across is that in Skamania County, Washington, if you kill a Bigfoot and they have their doctors look at it, and if it could go one of two ways for you. If when they look at it, it's more animal-like, you're basically just killing an animal, and
right.
maybe even an endangered animal. But if that creature turns out to be more human-like, that's a homicide. That is always, I've always found that interesting. That was like a little tidbit in the first David Paulides book about Bigfoot, the Hoopa Project.
Mm-hmm.
I always found that just fascinating. Like, and it's not the only county that has a rule pertaining to it. Like, apparently, before they went to this rule, there was like a much harsher rule where if you killed a Bigfoot, you basically just committed murder. So, I've always found that interesting. Yeah.
I think that it lends more credence to the fact that maybe it's not just a big ape running around the woods, which makes it a lot more terrifying. And where do we come from? And, a religion would come into it big time, which would anger a lot of people. But if there's some sort of a break off from us, because if they're an ape, they wouldn't be putting down Mandarin symbols on the top of a log. They just wouldn't be doing that. And if that's one of the more ancient languages, I learn something every single time I hop on here. I did not realize that, and that really, it makes things that make you go right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, another one that just renders me just a little speechless. I'm like, that's really cool. I like that. Another location that I would like to get to, because it sounds like Dave, they have something going on there. I don't know what it is exactly, but he's posting pictures all the time. And yeah, just another one. I'm like, oh, if you guys, take folks as guests for a couple days, I'll sleep in the woods. I don't even have to sleep in your house. I might sleep close to the house because got to be smart about things, right? But
right,
be cool to get out there.
Yeah, it's definitely it's either Bigfoot or Champ. That's what we have here.
Yeah.
Because if you go out further west, you're gonna get to Whitehall, and Whitehall was a hotbed.
For
yes. Bigfoot. Yeah.
You said you're only like an hour and a half away from Lake Champlain.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, when's the last sighting been of Champ?
They have a really big board that they record all these sightings on. I don't think there's ever been I'm doubtful of like Champ as a plesiosaur.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to the idea that Champ may in fact be like a large eel, because they do have eels in that lake. They have a lot of interesting fish in. They have gar pike, which are
those are
really
hideous
really
and huge. Yeah.
But at a couple of times in the last like 15 years, people have taken audio equipment, dropped it in the lake, and they keep getting what sound like clicking sounds, almost like what a whale would make. But maybe this is maybe it's some kind of like amphibian or something that makes random sounds or something like that. But we've always found that interesting that I think it was like early 2000s, and then again in 2014, these people, two different people drop audio equipment into Lake Champlain, and they get this clicking sound. Well, what the heck is this clicking sound?
I think that water cryptids are something that I should touch on a little more. I had Max Hawthorne on, of course, but
yeah, that was an awesome episode. I love that episode.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I need to get Katie Elizabeth on. She, of course, is a big supporter and researcher of Champ. That's long overdue, but yeah, I think that our waters are, it's kind of less explored than Mars with its rock creatures. So
it's rock creatures and its vegetation and its all-seeing eyes. Yeah.
That, what was it? An eggplant with an eye? What was that?
It was. Yeah. It really was just this large plant, and then the white spot was some eye, and supposedly, like, they were throwing around that it could detach this eye and it just looked at the universe. It could look at anywhere in the universe. Lord. Yeah, like. They were grooving on some crazy stuff back in the late 1800s.
They're loopy as me. It's like, go get some sleep. Goodness me.
Yeah. I mean, there was one guy who basically he took his telescope, pointed it at Mars, and he saw what he thought were flashes. And his thought, and he had two thoughts that two lines of thinking that he was going through. One, that there were aliens and they were trying to signal us, or two, they were aiming a gigantic ray gun at the planet.
How would the ray gun even come into play at that point in time? Like, where does that thought even, you know what I mean? Like, he's watching movies on ray guns. And
I think a lot of it comes from, like, War of the Worlds at that point, because the book had been out. It came out in the late 1800s.
That 1890s. Is true. Oh, I forgot it was that old. Yep. Yeah. You're right. There was a point of reference for it. I thought that was a little older than that, but nope. Oh, it's a ray. Of course it's a ray gun. What else would it be, Rob?
I'm failing to even think of a clickbait article that I could cite to throw at this.
No, that's when your reptilian creature got shot to Earth. That's when it was sighted first. And then it shot into the ground in the backyard of that house that was to be built hundreds of years later, and then you saw it when it came out of its cocoon.
I just want to send out a message to any and all reptilians that may be here from Mars. I had nothing to do with it, and I'd like you to leave me alone, please. Thank you.
You're like, I've seen one. That is enough. Thank you.
I don't need to see anything else.
Rob, over and out. I think when I realized that you revisited the fact that you were not driving, you were walking, I'm like, oh no. That's way worse. You have nothing around you. It's just you and it and you. No.
I stared into the face of a reptile and I walked away.
You're Superman. I mean, really. I needed a diaper.
Maybe my reputation precedes me and I just don't even know about it. You know?
Just don't get hypnotized, because maybe you don't want to know what's in there. You know what? I don't think any of us want to know what's in there.
No.
No hypnosis.
I'm keeping this brain away from any psychologist who wants to get his hands on it.
Off-limit psychologist, you heard it here first on ITF.
Yeah. I remember there was an episode of Astonishing Legends with Scott and Forrest. I think they were talking to Rich Haddam, the screenwriter of the Mothman Prophecies, and I got to give him a shout out because he called me a Fortean buzzkill because I basically said that because there's this story that emerged in the 50s that at the Battle of Tyre, 2 UFOs helped Alexander the Great breach the walls of Tyre and win the battle, which, you know, it's never been substantiated. And he ended up calling me a Fortean buzzkill.
Dude, you're famous. I've never had anyone like that talk shit about me. That's incredible.
Yeah, right?
Oh, dude, high five through Skype right now. That's amazing.
Right? And
you're a 14 buzzkill. Is that a new hashtag? Can I use that?
You can totally use it. Totally use it. But they were talking about they had mentioned me, and they're like, "Oh, Rob's gonna write a book one day," and I'm like, I'm not a good writer, so okay, this is the title of my book. It's coming out in 5 years. The Alien Agenda. Have you bothered asking them yet?
That's actually a really good point, though, right?
Right.
What the hell do you want?
I have a tough time with the people that talk about the Alien Agenda. Like, I love David Jacobs' early books, but once he gets to the late 80s, early 90s. I'm just like, most of them are hypnotic regression sessions, and it's just you know the alien agenda. You know, you haven't even bothered asking them yet. You know what the alien agenda is. Are you kidding me?
So probably the movie The Fourth Kind, like you're not a big fan of it.
I am terrified of that movie to this day. I won't watch it ever again. I'm kind of upset that I watched it in the first place. And I'll tell you, there's no aliens in that book, but that woman that was playing the supposed real woman that was traumatized, her eyes haunt me to this day.
You know, Sam hates that movie. He never liked that movie, but that movie still will creep me out. A good one, like you said. I'm like, that is creepy.
I give that job. I give that movie credit for trying to do something different in the way that it tried to sell it as real. Like, oh, we're going to give you the quote unquote real footage, and then we're going to put the dramatized footage right next to it. Yeah. So I give it credit for that, but I don't like the idea of aliens just being able to manipulate your body and paralyze you at any point in time. No, thank you.
Not so fun.
No.
Or you can just see little gnomes and reptiles, right, Rob?
That's about as far as it's gonna go.
You're like, I mean that. You're like, that's as far as it's going. You're telling someone right now, that's as far as it's
going. Whatever forces behind this, cut the shit. I've had enough. I may only be in my mid-30s, but I've had enough. I don't need any more.
Oh, yeah, no. In all honesty, thank you so much for sharing all that. And hey, if you're down for part 2, I think we should do it.
I'm totally down for part 2. If you want a teaser, I can tell you I've got a story involving an angel. I've got there's a spirit named Jeff that I'm really fond of. Oh. Yeah, there's lots of other stuff.
I like it. You've got the dichotomy there. You've got the little dark 2 foot tall, whatever the hell, in your bedroom, and the reptile, but then you have angels and the guy named Jeff, or the spirit. Or
he was a guy.
Okay.
He was a guy named Jeff, and we were actually able to, because I used to do paranormal investigations with the group. We were actually able to confirm the identity of the spirit.
Oh, that is cool. I love stuff like that where you can actually confirm something, which doesn't seem to happen very often. So very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, part 2 upcoming.
Absolutely.
Did you give it your email address, or are we just going with the Facebook and stuff? Is there anywhere else to contact you just to close out here?
I do have an email address. It's ourstrangeskies@gmail.com.
Perfection. Well, hey, Rob, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for going over time. It's so over time.
It's all good. When it's a fun conversation, I don't care.
I'm sorry for being a goof. It was really bad tonight. I'm not usually that bad. I'll have like bouts, but then I like the whole thing. I'm just like, oh well, here's something so funny, and let's just laugh. I'm sorry.
No, it's good to cut through the seriousness of it all. So no, I appreciate it definitely.
Okay. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we'll be in contact soon.
All right.
Keep your eyes closed. You don't want to see that effing gnome, dude.
No, I'm keeping them closed.
Yeah, you can walk to work with your eyes closed too for the reptile, right? You know your way. You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
I'm okay right now because it's winter. It's cold. It's not gonna come out.
Dude, you never know. If it's not from this world, it doesn't give a about the cold.
Shannon, don't put that in my mind.
Hey, I was talking about the Alaska shows. Well,
yeah.
When the weather gets really bad up there, they put the guidelines from one building to the other. You could just put like a 10-mile guideline all the way to work, and you could just keep your eyes closed.
Oh God.
I'm sure the county would be fine with it. You tell them the story, they will approve it. You'll get a paper. It'll be all official.
They're going to send me downstate into the mental facility before they even decide to approve something like that. They're pretty close-minded up here, I'll tell you that. Like they don't entertain the idea of a major retailer, so I don't think they're going to entertain that.
Which is actually stranger than the reptile creature, right? You're like, so what you're saying is you don't like money. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because we've had there's this it was called OWD, oval wood dish. Basically, it was like they manufactured like plastic, dinnerware and stuff like that.
Right.
And they eventually outsourced the work overseas, but we have this like large, this really large lot that if you tore it down and you put something there, well, you would bring in dollars, but nobody wants to do that.
Another mystery for unsolved mysteries, right?
Oh yeah, this whole town is one giant conspiracy. I'm certain of it. I mean, it's called Tupper Lake. I mean, there's a conspiracy right there.
You're like, who in the hell actually named this place?
I do wonder that. I do wonder that because, like, I'm pretty sure Saranac Lake. Saranac, I'm pretty sure is a Native American word. Tupper, Tupperware. But I mean,
you're like, can't trace that back too far.
No, I'm like, what? Why would they name it that? And I mean, I'm like maybe a half hour, 45 minutes away from Lake Placid. So,
my God, I love that movie.
We don't have any alligators up there, but
so you think?
No, we definitely don't have any gators. Don't you dare make me! Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
You're like, don't add Placid in there, damn it.
Yeah, it's like we're the Miracle on Ice people. We don't got gators.
Ain't no gators up here.
No.
That helicopter scene was so bad and so good at the same time.
It really was. It cast aspersions on the good name of Lake Placid, and believe me,
really
it could use some aspersions. I mean, you're
like, or a Walmart or a Kohl's or something.
Something. At least my hometown has what they call the community store. You could go buy clean underwear there, but it's questionable. It's highly questionable. I don't know where they get their stuff from.
How far did you say the good stuff was, or the non-questionable? Yeah.
For me, it's about an hour and a half.
Good Lord, dude. You're buying in bulk.
You got to. I mean, thank God for Amazon. I mean, at least I could. I watched those ahead of time, at least. But yeah.
You just have. All you have to do is have time for one load, and you can buy whatever you want on Amazon. Are you a Prime member?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It is the best.
And I think Amazon should now sponsor us. Thank you. Yeah, no, but honestly, I've been Prime member for almost 2 years, and I'll happily pay the fee for the rest of my life. I don't know why people would not be a Prime member if you ever order from Amazon. Just saying.
I mean, it's the retailer. You can't not. And I mean, like, I'll support Jeff Bezos. He's got space projects. I'm down with that.
Yeah,
it's not like Walmart's working on anything, sending anything into space.
No, they just hassle you on the way out the door. Did you pay for that case of water under the old basket there? Did you pay for that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazon on the way.
It's like, easy there, old man. You don't want to break a hip.
Yeah, you're like, are you greeter, security, or what's going on? Are you a robot? Oh,
yeah. Or are you general harasser? Or like, what are you?
General harasser. That's me every time I get on to interview. Just grilling folks. Rob, thank you so much. Part 2 coming up. Angels, demons, and Jeff. There you go.
Jeff. Yeah.
I made up the demons part. There's no demons part. That was all me.
No demons involved.
Unless you want to label the other things, that's up to you. We're not putting that label on those things. So.
No, definitely not.
All right. Thanks again. Go get some sleep. I'm sorry to keep you over.
That's all good. All good.
You're a blast to talk to, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, bye.
Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little biography. Buddha says, forget it. That's not true. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Well, nobody knows who that is. Because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you And that again leads us back to this question. Who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam. By the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are. says, when you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, get up and walk across the room. And he comes back and he says, where are your footprints? They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.